Ibrahim Fraihat is an associate professor of international conflict resolution at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies, and that's where he joins us now live. Ibrahim, thank you so much for joining us now. You say that these strikes show that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not serious about negotiations and bringing this war to an end right now. The Prime Minister yesterday taking full credit, saying that Israel acted on its own here, unilaterally. Was over. This was in response to Monday's attack in the West Bank, killing 4 Israelis that Hamas took responsibility for. Why, in your view, do you think that he is opposed so adamantly to these ceasefire talks right now, especially at a time when the United States just presented a new proposal?
Yeah, thank you for this question. For a very obvious reason. One is that if you are seriously interested in a ceasefire or a peace deal, you don't go bomb the mediator, which is what Prime Minister Netanyahu did, actually. He bombed the mediator. This is not something known even in the literature of conflict resolution or international relations. You don't go bomb the mediator or even kill the negotiators, the enemy, as what Prime Minister Netanyahu admitted of trying to do. So that's one. The second important reason is that we have a proposal on the table by President Trump that was just released 2 days ago, before the attack, on the possible ceasefire and a deal that was made by President Trump. And Hamas leaders were meeting to negotiate with this and to discuss and engage with it, the way of what we heard of the statements made after the proposal. So even before receiving or a response to the President Trump proposal, you go and bomb the negotiators. That's not even that's not even known in international relations at all. Of that, you try to kill the negotiator while they're negotiating a peace deal on the table, no matter how enemy or how bad this enemy is. So that's this. We have this evidence that Prime Minister Netanyahu is basically trying to sabotage any possible ceasefire for the war in Gaza, which signals actually 2 important objectives that he's trying to reach. One is that he's interested in continuing this war to keep and to maintain his own government and his own political alliance with the far right in Israel. And also for much bigger reasons that he made it so clear that he's trying to redraw the political map of the Middle East. So that's where things are going. For these 2 reasons, what serves his own political agenda is a continuation of the war, not a ceasefire, not a successful peace proposal that's presented by President Trump.
You know, I want to just expand on something that you said that I thought was really interesting. I mean, this idea of Qatar's role as a mediator. I mean, it's had this really sort of interesting role as this go-to mediator since the 1990s, playing such a key part in the peace processes, just in terms of the conflicts in Afghanistan and Sudan and Yemen. In fact, it played a really important role just in terms of Israeli interests in the release of Gilad Shalit back in 2011. That was the sort of really famous Israeli hostage. And then obviously it has these rare diplomatic channels with Hamas. It's hosted Hamas's political office since I think 2012 in Doha. And so how does this jeopardize Qatar's role as a mediator, as a really important mediator, at least in terms of this war going forward, do you think?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And I think there are so many things that need to be reevaluated in light of this latest strike that we've seen by the Israeli government. Qatar has a very long history of mediation, as you said, in Afghanistan, in Yemen, and actually in this particular conflict, the first hostage swap between Israel and Hamas was actually primarily mediated by Qatar. So though there isn't a successful mediation in ending the war, but there were some small successes in terms of prisoners exchange on that level. So there has been this. Now, the other thing is that the presence of Hamas leaders in Doha, as stated by former CIA director General Petraeus, that this came at as a result of the request of the U.S. administration, as per General Petraeus, that's we asked Qatar to host Hamas and Taliban, obviously for mediation reasons, which was very successful in the case of Afghanistan, mediating between the U.S. and Afghanistan. And this continuing now mediation between Israel and Hamas, where Qatar is playing a key role in this and helping the United States as well. So after this attack, Qatar, I think, will need to be re-evaluating so many things. And primarily, the U.S. administration will have to answer so many questions because of all the long relationship and collaboration between Qatar and the U.S. And now ending with this kind of giving a green light for Israel to bomb the mediator, to bomb a U.S. strategic ally, Qatar, in mediation and in so many other ways. So, and hosting the U.S. military base, Al Udeid, in Qatar. So this is something that the U.S. administration, I think the Trump administration, will have to answer so many questions about the future of this relationship and how this can be fixed, this kind of relationship that is being now damaged as a result of this development.
Who has more at stake here in terms of that relationship that you're speaking of, Qatar or the United States? Obviously, the two are allies that have worked together in terms of the United States having its largest air base there. And as you have noted, that Hamas leadership based there was viewed as an opportunity for Qatar to mediate in ways that the United States and both Israel could not. So if this really does fray relations, who stands to lose more here, the United States or Qatar? How is that being viewed internally?
Thank you. That's a very important question. I think to answer your question, they both need each other. And this is how the way it worked in the past with other U.S. administrations. But however, we have to reframe the question a little bit more. It's not just about Qatar and the U.S. It's about Gulf relations and the United States. Gulf states, the GCC countries, have been very strategic allies for decades with the U.S. Even goes back to during the Cold War with the Soviet Union. So they have been always having this very strong relationship. But recently, the past few years, actually, this relationship started to suffer, to struggle on that level. And that's the way it's seen by the Gulf states, including Qatar, that there is a betrayal from the U.S. administration of not helping their allies during times of security. And here, it's very important to mention an example during the Saudi-Emirati war with the Houthis in Yemen, and when the Houthis attacked Aramco, the oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, also the U.S. administration failed to provide security for Saudi Arabia. So there are now things on the record. It's not only about allowing Israel to attack Qatar, but also not protecting Saudi Arabia when it was attacked by the Houthis on its major oil facilities. So this relationship has now been questioned by being the sole security provider that the Gulf states used the United States in the past. Now this is being questioned whether with these incidents it's really worth to maintain it on a sole security provider level or diversification of the security relations. So I think it's a lose-lose relationship, what's happening now with these kind of developments. Qatar being bombed, the U.S. administration now being questioned as a serious ally, not only by Qatar, but also with the rest of the Gulf states and the rest of the region and other allies in the world. How reliable can the U.S. administration be when all the services that Qatar has provided to the United States in the past, and then it's allowing it, for this without to be attacked without any protection. So that's why I think the U.S. administration has to answer so many questions about its role, its reliability, its the possibility of partnerships, And unfortunately, it does not look good at all to the U.S. unless it provides very serious and convincing reasons, which I don't see any, because this is how it's been questioned by many here in the region, that the U.S. is failing its allies. It's not the first incident. It's just adding to the record of betrayal and failure to protect and deliver security to the Gulf regions as it is expected to.
Yeah, and not to mention that the strike happened just days after the president himself had warned that more pressure would have to be applied on Hamas to bring a ceasefire about and release the hostages. A lot of questions, important ones that you raised there, Ibrahim Fraihat. Thank you so much for your time.